Good afternoon, everyone, to the Monday, January 22nd regular council meeting. We will now start the meeting. I call to order at 1 p.m. Moving down then to item adopted or added items, please. I will firstly add an item under 5E with regards to the terms of reference for the Mid-Sized Towns Mayor's Caucus. Are there any other added items to the agenda? Thank you. Seeing none then, I would ask then for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. I'm sorry, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that we accept the agenda for Monday, January 22nd, 2024 as amended.
Thank you. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Moving down now to delegations portion of your agenda. This is item 3, page 7, and we have for our minutes. Regular council meeting minutes, please, of January 8th. I am seeking consent for these. I see no objections, so we have consent for January 8th, 2024 minutes. Thank you. Now we are on item 3A, page 7, delegation Clinton Peterson for dirt jump track. And I'd invite you to the podium. And thank you all for being here today.
Thanks. All right, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today about the creation of a dirt jump park and pump track for non-motorized bicycles in the town of Olds. So, the mission and goals of this project would be, we'd want to work with the town to develop, build, and maintain a dirt jump park here in town. We'd want to continue to develop Rotary Park as a multi-use destination for a wide variety of activities and sports. We'd want to enhance and fill a gap in the existing recreational offerings in the town of Olds right now. Right now for mountain bikers, there's not really any recreation for them in town. For BMXers, we have the skate park, but the skate park is getting busier and busier, so building something different would get all the bikers kind of in one spot out of the skate park and give it a little bit of life as well. We'd want to encourage healthy lifestyles and family-oriented fun. We'd want to foster a sense of camaraderie and community for the local bike riders. It would provide employment for local contractors in the initial build. It has the potential to provide youth employment in the future, summer camps, different things like that, coaching and stuff. It would attract people to Olds, where they hopefully spend lots of money when they come to visit. And it would be a relatively low-cost project to create a legacy project for the town. Features and design. So that'd be the next slide here. No worries. So basically, when you have a dirt jump park, it starts off with a big starting hill. So if you think about Rotary Park already, they have the toboggan hill, similar in size to that. And then you'd start there, and you have the jump lines, which you can see here. So typically, you have a beginner, intermediate, and advanced jump line. They're all side by side, so everybody rides together, looks out for each other. The experts help the beginners and everything. We'd also like to propose that we do a dirt pump track in town here. Pump tracks are kind of all the rage in the cities now and everything. Pump tracks are kind of hard to explain, so I found a description of it. I'll just read it here. It says, a series of rhythmic rollers placed in a circuit format. So if you've seen BMX racetracks, it's similar to that, but instead of like wide enough for 8 people, it's just one lane. So people can practice that sort of riding. We'd also need viewing areas and amenities, such as picnic benches, bike racks, restrooms, and maybe water fountains, something like that, just to keep people hydrated. And we'd have environmental considerations. So we'd want to do it environmentally sustainable, so careful consideration for drainage, erosion control, and landscaping. So next up, I have here costs and maintenance. So the cost is often a reflection of the level of planning, design, builders, construction methods, and materials used. There is several dirt jump tracks around Alberta. I looked into the price of them. They typically range in price for the initial build of $150,000 to $500,000. For maintenance costs, those can be reduced through training people and groups involved in maintenance, care of the park. This in turn provides local riders with a greater sense of ownership and care if they are doing the maintenance at the park themselves, helping out. Operational maintenance for like on-site management, it'd be similar to what's already at Rotary Park. So you'd have like recycling and trash pickup, repairs and mitigation measures, proper drainage, and just keeping like signs, benches, things like that in good condition. And then for the ongoing maintenance of the jumps and pump track themselves, the dirt part, we would be looking for just things like access to water, shovels, and other handheld tools so people can contribute to the maintenance themselves and help out that way. For funding and partnerships, we would seek funding from grants, local business sponsorships, municipal, provincial, and federal levels, and also donations. We would explore opportunities for advertising within the park on benches, signs, bike racks, and maps. This has the potential to stimulate revenue inside the park while promoting local businesses. And we'd also explore the opportunity to pledge funds in exchange for donation plaques or naming rights at the park. Community engagement and opportunities. So we would outreach and educate community riders on proper building methods and maintenance practices to encourage ongoing care, a sense of ownership, and meaningful community building. To do this, we would schedule and facilitate educational workshops and volunteer worker bee events. So lots of bike parks do this already, where they'll say every second Saturday of the month, everybody meets in the morning. You get out the shovels, you fix all the jumps together. They also do different workshops where they teach people how to build and maintain the jumps. And then this way, if they're not running well, nobody wants to ride something that's not running well, then the locals can fix the jumps themselves, and you're not paying somebody to come in and do it all the time. Then location. So in my opinion, Rotary Park would be an ideal location for a dirt jump park. Building at Rotary Park helps its reputation as a multi-use and year-round destination. So basically in the winter you have snowshoeing, skiing, tobogganing. In the summer you could have baseball and the bike park already there. It has existing infrastructure that would really save on cost for building a dirt jump park, like parking and roads. Roads is a really important one because then you have access for machinery and emergency services, which you definitely need in case somebody crashes and somebody can get there. It's already close to businesses like restaurants and hotels for people to spend their money. Like my family and I, we travel all over Western Canada and the United States to different places like this, and we spend lots of money. So pretty much every weekend we're up at Black Falls right now, and I'd rather be spending that money here in town than having to go there. The other thing that makes it an ideal location is there's already existing bike paths and infrastructure there. So for local kids who can't drive, they have easy access, and it brings kind of the town closer to Rotary Park that way as well for everything. So, and yeah, in summary, a dirt jump park and pump track is a relatively inexpensive way to fill a gap in the recreational offerings for BMXers and mountain bikers in Olds. By building this project, it would create a sense of camaraderie and ownership for the local two-wheel population. Through outreach and community engagement, the park could be maintained for a relatively low cost once it's built. Having the park in town will make Olds a destination for bike riders from all over Western Canada and make Rotary Park a destination for locals and out-of-towners alike. Thanks again for your time. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. What kind of a time frame through the day would that be? When would you start? When would you end?
For the build or?
Well, actually for the use.
Oh, for use? We try to go up in the morning, so usually we'll start riding around, well, depending how far we're driving. We try to beat the heat, and then we ride, and then we usually leave at supper, but it's all day long from dusk till dawn, basically. Yeah, you'll have people there all day.
Thank you very much.
You're
That
welcome.
was well presented, and we'll start with Council and Deputy Wilson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just a question, two questions for Clinton, if I may. One is, do you have any idea what the size of the user community would be or is there a shadow world of people
Yeah.
that are just riding their bikes and we don't know whether they would?
It's true. Well, for Olds, I'm not too sure with the mountain bike population because there's nothing for them currently.
Yeah.
I know there is a lot of BMXers at the skate park all the time. There's probably a population of, I'd say, 20 to 30 people on BMX bikes that come and go from the old skate park. But the big thing is the out-of-town people. So we travel a lot, and sometimes we'll be in Black Falls, and there's probably 100 people there. It just depends. We'd also want to throw things like local jams and contests, which brings in a lot of out-of-town people. They'd stay for the weekend. We do a lot of that kind of stuff in the bike community. And yeah, a lot of people do travel. So we know lots of people from Calgary that we've met, like at the Beeline Indoor Park, and we'll see them. They'll do the trip all the way up Highway number 2, hit all the spots, all the different skate parks and bike parks, and then go to Edmonton, stay there, and then come back, and vice versa too. So there's a lot of travel. We've gone all the way like through BC, down in Montana, all over. So it's hard to say like on a daily basis, but it's a fairly big population now. Yeah.
Thank you, go ahead.
A supplemental, thank you, Mayor Dahl, and thanks for that reply. And then, can you give me an idea on the demographic here? And I guess, like you mentioned, you and your family, so.
That's right.
Are you a BMXer, or is it your kids?
I'm a
Or is there
BMXer.
old people like me that are BMXers?
I'm
Like-
turning 40 in a couple of weeks, so I'm getting up there. I'm still riding. I got to stretch about an hour a day to maintain it. But yeah, so it's basically my son, he's 6 years old. There's a lot of kids who are young riding with their dads now like him. And yeah, it's basically 6 years. I've met riders over 50 who are still riding. Yeah, it's changed a lot. Now the older guys are still sticking with it, like me. And yeah, we're at the skate park every day, and a lot of people are still doing it. It's just a nice family thing now. It's a lot more family oriented, and yeah, so it's all ages, I would say. Yeah, you bet. She does, yeah. She rides. Everybody here rides. So
I was just going to say to Deputy Wilson and council members, when you speak about the word shadow, I think there's a lot of shadow children that are letting the child out to play your age
That's right.
and up.
that's right. Yeah.
So welcome, because it is a family event.
Young
Any
at heart,
other
right?
questions? Councillor Blatz, and then Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Clinton. When you talk about families, and this is this like a structured thing? Is it a league, or is it something that's just sort of
So
anyone can do it, and you don't make, there's no qualifications, there's no tryouts, it would be just another avenue per se for people to get out and do something fun with families and for themselves?
that's right. It's basically a big playground for everybody. It's not structured like BMX racing or anything.
Okay.
That's why I first got into it. In BMX, we call it freestyle BMX. But you do see a lot of like mentorship, older riders helping younger riders. Everybody looks out for each other. If somebody crashes, they're there right away. And yeah, but you can show up and ride whenever and don't have to wait your turn. Well,
Okay.
hopefully you do, but
Thank you, that's what I was looking for. Supplemental,
Go.
yes, and this is probably through you, Mayor Dahl, to maybe CEO Williams. When he talks about, where would the liability be if this is on town property? Would the liability rest with the town, or would it rest with the individuals? How would that work? Would we require extra insurance to cover that, or is this something that each individual rider and rider's family is responsible for?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Blatz. I would be under the town's general liability insurance as the skate park is right now. So I don't imagine it would be much of a change, given that by the sounds of Clint's proposal, it would be more focused on perhaps user maintain. So appropriate signage just regarding indemnification liability would be posted at the site. Toboggan Hill is a good example too, which we just posted that signage now.
Councillor Daly, and then Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Clinton. My question is, you mentioned funding as far as the construction of the park as well as the maintenance of the park, and I'm just wondering preliminarily, what is your plan as far as funding to get the park up and going?
similar to when we did the skate park, I was involved in that years ago. So you kind of start at grassroots, try fundraisers, try to get local businesses involved. I did briefly look into grants before I came, but I'm not very good at that kind of thing. I could look into it a lot more. There is grants available for like sport and stuff like that. I'm sure we'd be eligible for. And then just probably a combination between federal, provincial, and municipal. Yeah.
Go ahead, supplemental.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And further to that then is the maintenance of the park after it's built. Is you mentioned about, having access to hand tools and so forth. Are you expecting the participants to be involved in the maintenance of this?
I would be, yeah. So as I had mentioned, we would try to involve everybody into it. So we would start with like worker bee kind of weekends where people show up. We show them how to maintain the jumps. We would have a core group available to help out on site. So like myself and a few others that would be there all the time. But basically what that does, instead of having to call a company and every time you have problems, if people are local who can maintain the park a little bit, you don't run into that as much. So if we do once or twice a month, we get a worker bee group going. I know a lot of bike parks around, I have seen too, post on their social media. They'll have like nighttime classes on how to maintain jumps and how to build dirt jumps. So if you can kind of get the community involved, it leads to people taking ownership, right? So if somebody shows up and starts messing with the jumps, but you put in the hard work yourself to maintain and fix it, you're going to be more likely to step in and stop something like that as well. So
Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just curious about the footprint or the area required for these type of parks.
Footprint required, it depends on how big you want to go. Some parks are fairly small, like a few acres. Some parks are bigger. It just depends. I think like the area at Rotary Park, maybe looking would be around the creek that runs through there on the other side of the ball diamonds. But yeah, a couple of acres would probably be sufficient for it.
Thank you. My next question, and then I'll go to Deputy Wilson and Councillor Daly. Would you be able to help explain what type of lighting you would need for a facility like that?
No
Or-
lighting.
No light, no lighting?
No lighting, no.
You can.
You don't ride it at
Oh,
night, it's just
that's right.
daytime only, so most parks don't have, like maybe lighting just at the general entrance or something, but at nighttime, you wouldn't be riding it at all, no. I've tried that in the past on our own jumps, and I don't recommend it.
Okay, so it totally is nature.
It is nature, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the nice thing, it doesn't have a big footprint, because it's just dirt
Yes.
and landscaping, so.
Thank you. Deputy Wilson and then Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Clinton. I think generally this council and administration are big supporters of sport tourism. You briefly touched on that as far as families traveling about. Can you talk a little bit about what that potentially could look like down the road if we had this type of facility here in terms of competitions? And does the track have to be built to a certain standard before you can call yourself and have competitions? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, basically if we build it right the first time and just keep it maintained, you wouldn't have to do anything special before doing that. A lot of the outdoor parks do have a competition or jams, or both even. So I've been involved in throwing those in the past as well. You reach out to local communities local businesses, see if they want to participate, advertise, and then you just call it a jam or a contest, you advertise it, word of mouth that goes around to other riders, and you end up with a couple hundred people showing up. They usually stay for the weekend in the city, and yeah, eat there, play there, ride there all weekend long. You get involvement from local, like BMX companies as well. They'll give prizes, different things like that, just to get their name out there. Sorry, I keep bumping into this, I'm talking with my hands. But yeah, so like as an example, last summer, Black Falls did one. So they had the 2 indoor bike parks, Action Wheels in Edmonton and Beeline were involved. They sent all their pro riders, and they just had it a jam contest day. So they do like best trick, things like that. And yeah, kids, all ages, everybody participates and gets together. Usually they'll put up like shade tents and stuff like that and have barbecues and everything as well, and everybody just kind of has a great day. Yeah. Yep, you're welcome.
Daly?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Clinton. What about security on the facility? Would you have to put up fencing around it? Would you have an opening and closing hours and so forth? As you mentioned with Mayor Dole's question about lighting, there would be no lighting. So just to keep, I guess, the unwanted visitors out of there in off hours.
Yeah, there is, so a couple examples nearby. Black Falls, it's all fenced off with chain link fence. They lock the gate, so if the jumps are wet, they lock the gate so you can't ride them. Chestermere is different. They don't have any fencing or anything around it, so you can access it all the time. I'm not sure which way would be better. I would recommend at least before the jump line, having like a chain so you can lock it up if it's wet. You don't want people riding it when it's wet. I think luckily, like in Olds, we'd have enough locals that are going to be there all the time and maintain the park that you wouldn't have to worry about it, but I would recommend at least a chain so people can't ride it when it's wet, or lock it up in wintertime, just as an example, yeah. But there's a couple different ways. I'm not sure what would be better. Some places they are chain linked off, some places are right wide open. I haven't seen problems at either, but yeah, I'm not too sure what the better answer would be there, I'm sorry.
Well, we have Director Andrew here that works in a lot of areas as such, and I'm sure he could apprise us of any if there's some come up.
That would be good, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever would be better for the town would work for me, that's for sure.
Perfect. Well, you definitely shared a lot of facts with us, and it sounds exciting. It
you.
doesn't sound like something that's going to cost a lot of money for users, and it's a family event. So if there's no further questions, I'd ask for a motion from council. Please? Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council accepts the dirt jump track information as presented.
And once again, Mr. Peterson, we'll just keep this information and we'll move on from there.
Thank you very much. If you need anything, let me
And
know.
thank you all again for being here.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. All right, we will now move down to page 16, please. Item 3B of the agenda, the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer Quarterly Report. CAO Williams? We do. All those in favor? That's carried.
Okay, so the Q4 report wrapping up 2023 for Office of the CAO. The first version of this, first iteration you saw last quarter, I had dropped a department. Since then, communications and engagement has now moved over to community services, so that won't be included in this report. To start, something council's been at a high level apprised of so far, but I want to make it so the public is aware also that we're trying to standardize our internal naming conventions at the moment, where we have words like departments and functions thrown around. There will be an updated org chart released to council staff and to the general public via our website, just based on how the town's structured. So obviously council, and then the CAO, and then under the CAO, there's 5 divisions. Division of Corporate Services, Community Services, Office of the CAO, Protective Services, and Infrastructure. Then under the divisions, respectively, are the departments. These aren't all of the departments, just used for example's sake. To use Corporate Services as the example, Finance is a department of the Division of Corporate Services, as would be Grants and Procurement, as would be Information Technology. Then underneath the Department of Finance would be several functions. Accounts payable, also grants and procurement technically is a function. I misspoke there. And hopefully we can get a more digestible version of this org chart for the public to better understand town operations and for common vocabulary to be used through the town. So we'll start with economic development. At the end of 2023, we had a very positive year in terms of business licensing after certainly a lull during COVID and following the pandemic. We have our highest total of business licenses to date, and 848. I should include that number here. It's around there. But in 2023, we had 75 total new business licenses issued. And you can see certainly with the infill development in vacant commercial, those results are palpable. Certainly when you think of places like Mountain View Plaza and the various strip malls around town. Our immigration programs, of which we had 2, run on behalf of the provincial government, paused for the time being, but again, ended the year fairly strongly. The immigrant worker program was by far the most popular, getting workers in those businesses that most need it. In Q4, we had 17 applications in total, processed 10, and 7 of those were approved. And it is a tiered process, obviously starting with the municipality who has their checklist, the province has to then approve, and obviously Immigration Canada has the final say. Business promotion, some stats on the Invest Old website, still showing strong growth on the website hits and social media. The ED strategy, as council is aware, EDAC has now been formed with 2 members of council and public at large, along with a member from Mountain View County. We have received over $40,000 in grant funding to date to fund the strategy, and we hope to have an announcement soon on at least part of the $350,000 that has been applied for through various provincial and federal funding programs. And looking ahead for economic development in Q1 and beyond this year, CAPE continues to be planning their various initiatives, and I believe they'll be sharing information soon on what those look like. Housing development continues to be very popular as a concept, still waiting on that developer to be the first to pull the trigger at a large scale. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then the retail gap analysis, which was approved in the 2024 budget pending successful grant dollars becoming available. And again, we're optimistic that we can fund that once we have better ideas in the spring of what those grant applications look like. And just again, another overview to clarify where we're at right now. Economic development has several fingers in the proverbial pot right now, and we hope the strategy, certainly the strategy will clarify and collaborate those efforts. So we have kind of four actors at play. The economic development officer, Sandra's time is predominantly spent on industry engagement, managing the Invest Olds brand and all things that come with it, and the EDAC committee and its ongoing and soon-to-be startup work. EDAC, obviously we hope the committee will be somewhat masters of their own fate. Council does have the bylaw stipulating its focus and its responsibility areas at a high level, but certainly the strategy is the key thing to drive forward for that committee. Speaking personally, I hope the committee does become that voice on the ground for local economic issues, whether that be through the chamber in Uptown or through local small businesses, and helping us better engage. And then there are subcommittees, only one of which is in existence right now, the Workforce Development Committee, but potentially up to 4 envisioned as supporting the strategy's creation as well that would report to EDAC. Subcommittee is the better word. Myself, housing, transit, commercial, and Mountain View Power are the files that I'm currently handling within that ED realm, and then CAPE with their regional priorities. Legislative services, only one policy updated in Q4, several bylaws approved in Q4. One administrative procedure was updated as well on encroachments. And then looking ahead, we do have a bit of a logjam right now, but we have our snow clearing policy and procedure in its first amended draft form. Hopefully council will see that in February. Bylaws, traffic's in there, obviously we have that today. Animal bylaw will be coming forward on February the 12th. Solid waste bylaw requires an update, and as does our water utility bylaw, predominantly because of the water conservation efforts announced on our behalf by the province. And then Council Remuneration Committee, that bylaw is also before council today. For the org review, there were 6 recommendations that we consider complete or complete with ongoing monitoring. Related to that, in the Human Resources Department, 4 things to touch on. Compensation and benefits review, those are 2 separate reviews, mentioned briefly in the above slide. But for the compensation review, the intention is to do one every 2 years. So council did accept the results and updated accordingly for budget 2024. The next review is planned for next year for 2026 consideration by council. And as we all know, benefits have transitioned January 1st. We don't have we don't do it regularly, but we do plan on doing another review in 2026. And that's when our 40-month rate guarantees expire based on what we achieved so far with our long-term disability, short-term disability, health and dental premiums. And a few procedures. So we have 3: onboarding, professional development, and hiring. These 3 all relate to org review recommendations and plus the staff engagement and satisfaction surveys. Those are all in progress in various ways. And once those are complete, council will be updated on what we figured out for best practice to work internally. Mountain View Power, the final grant take of 2023 was a success, very well prescribed to, with the grants committee doing a great job adjudicating the applications on behalf of council. $130,000 total was distributed in 2023. On MVP performance, we've had a positive year overall, but I believe there's still a lot more room to be better here, and that does involve getting more capacity administratively to market Mountain View Power, and both its community benefit, but also its competitive rates on electricity and natural gas, and solar, as you can see. The microgeneration, which is almost all solar, has a solar club platform that we've seen, even though it's only 46 sites, significant growth in 2020 2023. And we do have our first, first in a long time, pre-town commission-based seller on our behalf. So Cap Solar is a partner with Mountain View Power. You may have seen their signs around town. I believe they're Red Deer based, but they're doing a lot of home installs, and they take a commission on people they sign up for Mountain View Power, hoping to expand that program to many more businesses and individuals. But still, positive growth, lots more room to go. And obviously sponsorship, that's recent and 2023 recap with Oldstoberfest. And then looking ahead, capacity I mentioned. We want to get more community buy-in on how to leverage this asset, and I believe the grants committee was a great first step, but also a lot of knowledge in the community about Mountain View Power's inception and how we could increase its presence and reputation in the community. And the solar program, we do have promotions in place to attract people, and it really is a matter, I think, getting the word out on the benefits of not just Mountain View Power, but of having a code generation option at your property. Special projects, condition assessment of Sportsplex going well. We should be seeing a first draft by March 1st, presented to council on the current engineering state of the complex and what we feel is its overall state in serving the recreation needs of Olds and surrounding area. Our phase 2 looks like 2025 based on the ACP grant that we will be applying for. It will be commencement date for the next spot. Water conservation plan we spoke about last meeting. The annual report, we are doing a bit of a change this year. We want to get it out by early February to kind of capture 2023 while people still remember 2023. And then once our audit of the financial statements are complete, usually mid-May, we plan on sending out a shorter but separate financial focused report with our financial statements and our budget and some other financial information. Right now its working term is corporate update, but that will probably change as we get closer to that date. And housing, always a hot topic. We do have 2 applications, one through CMHC, another through AHPP, which is provincial. No word yet on those submissions. Ongoing meeting with developers. There's a lot of interest. Expecting another rezoning application by this spring. Still waiting on that first developer to pull that proverbial trigger. And our land use bylaw review will be forthcoming starting this year into next year. And we'll speak about that in another part of the agenda as well. Not my department, but I put it here anyways, as it is a good time to announce that 2023 building development included in there was our busiest year since about 2015. So really good news overall that we are starting to rebound, albeit more slowly than we would like. But housing starts are the highest since 2015 at 28 total. I do expect this 30, just below 30 number of housing starts to continue for 2024. And for 2025, I do believe we'll be upwards of triple that number. As they move total permits, total dollar value, those are all trending higher as well. If you take away some aberrations for like sundial construction between 2016 to 2018 and some condo builds that kind of skewed the average, 2023 was a positive year. Then health and safety. Slow quarter, thankfully. We've had a couple vehicle issues, mostly weather related. And I think there were actually some were mechanical failures, some were weather related, but we had only one human injury, a rolled ankle, I believe it was. But overall, health and safety, something we need to improve on. There's progress happening, albeit slowly, but we happy that we're seeing those incidents decrease quarter over quarter. And finally, challenges and opportunities. So standard operating procedures, we talk a lot about asset management and KPIs and service levels. One thing we are missing at the town is, we're batting around the terms SOP or SWP, safe work practice versus standard operating procedure. You know, we know what we do. We know that we do have to repair the roads. We have to check the sanitary lines. We just don't have a good guide of how we do those things. And that really is the baseline before you start tracking progress. You really have to, give direction to staff and provide them with direction and the opportunity to report back and record and measure what they do on the day-to-day basis. So we are working on that. 3 have been created to date, 2 more are in final draft form, and there's dozens more to do. GIS system, if you recall in 2023 budget, council approved the work order system. That was delayed because of this, that our GIS system is currently hosted with the Old Man River Planning Commission, ORSC for short. We don't have control over that system. It is a kind of send and update to Lethbridge kind of model, and that's just doesn't work. So we're able to leverage our work order module through that company to join their GIS system as well. So we will have those 2 pieces of software plus our current asset management software, which is used for our tangible capital asset tracking. They will be combined 3 into 1, and that's being rolled out right now. So for a nominal cost, we're able to upgrade our GIS system, which will be much more useful for us to track the maintenance and replacement of our assets and build those internal mechanisms. And lastly, on ONET, have to report the SPL TV conversion is at, well, as of the end of December, 73%. I suspect it's a little bit higher right now. And all current subscribers to ONET are eligible for this upgrade. There's no longer a geographic limitation that the entire town, if you haven't gotten it, you are able to self-install or schedule a tech to come to your house. And the board has passed the 2024 operating capital budget, and the focus again, just like the final 2 quarters of last year, is on the domestic Olds market, improving our core services here in Olds, along with the core infrastructure that runs the rest of our network. So, took longer than I wanted, but not bad.
It was very informational. Thank you very much. I'll open the floor to council if there's questions. It was very thorough. You do have a question? Okay, Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to the CEO. A couple questions. One, though, is and maybe there's something that went out and I just didn't see it, very likely. Can you shed any light on the temporary closure of the swimming pool? I believe it reopened today, but, and can you comment in general through this lengthy cold snap, how our infrastructure is holding up, or are we just waiting now for the thaw and the water mains to break?
To the first question, no, I haven't gotten an update yet on what caused the brief shutdown yesterday. The pool is back open today. And no, we haven't had word of any water leaks yet. But the test for our infrastructure will be once it picks up to 0 and above, generally when we start noticing it. So.
Thank you. No further questions? Go ahead, Deputy Wilson.
Thank you. And again, through you to the CEO, I was wondering if the CEO can just comment. I know there's been talk of relative to ECDEV, a survey going out to businesses. Is there any update there on timing of that survey and how it'll be handled? Or
Yes, the leadership team, which is myself and the 4 directors, just reviewed the survey last week, and I'm expecting by the first or second week of February it should be at least going to the EDAC committee for its review. So it is imminent. It's quite a large survey, but the push will be hopefully to have a concerted effort for multiple places to get businesses bought in, to take the couple hours it will take to get through it, but it is forthcoming. I have reviewed it myself recently.
Thank you. I would now ask for a motion, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'd make the motion that council accepts the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer quarterly report as presented.
Thank you, Deputy Wilson. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Very good. Moving down now to bylaws, please. Page 29, item 4A. This is with regards to 2024-01 Committee of the Whole, and we're looking for all readings today. I think I'll start with the first reading, and we can ask question from there. First reading, please, Councillor Blatt.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give first reading to the Committee of the Whole bylaw number 2024-01 as presented.
At this time, I will ask, are there any questions? Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I have some questions. I'm quite pleased with the way this has come back. I just have some staff support. It says the principal advisor to the Policies and Priority Committee. That's yeah. It's not a PMP committee anymore, so I'm just... Also, the word mandate. I have trouble reconciling that with my understanding of a mandate. How can a council mandate its council members to do something? And I'm going, I would propose that the purpose of the committee, which is used in Section 8 there, replace mandate. I think that would make a lot more sense, because we're not really giving a mandate to ourselves. It's just the way the committee, it is a committee of council, but it's not really a mandate. It's a purpose. I would suggest that would be a change of councils. But other than that, I'm pleased with the way it's turned out. Glad to see that the focus on broader and more strategic thinking instead of just a broad-based meeting where you could bring in baskets of squirrels, or let them loose and take everybody's attention away. And the other thing is, what we discussed before as a recommendation to council. I think it'd be more appropriate if council directed questions or research type ideas towards the committee. This is sort of backwards in my mind. Like, it seems like the committee as a whole puts together stuff, then sends it to council, but it is a subcommittee of council, so that would be a question on the wording of that. So what we do should be at the request of council, not coming up with things to send to council. So those are some of the things that I would expect to change. But if anybody has alternate thoughts, I'd be glad to hear those.
Thank you. We do have alternate thought. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor. So not necessarily an alternate thought, just the kind of a explanation of your last point, Harvey. We can't, in this bylaw, tell council what to do. So the procedural bylaw would have to be changed to direct flow of information from how a council meeting directs the COTW to do something. Here we can only talk about what the COTW has authority to do, which is bring things forward to council for decision-making purposes, because we can't make decisions in COTW, which is what that part is all about. The procedural bylaw, which dictates what council meetings do and what's done at a council meeting, can certainly be augmented to direct or to give the authority of council to direct to COTW to do stuff. We felt that it would be inappropriate for us in the COTW bylaw to direct council to do things, since there's the procedural bylaw which dictates that sort of thing. The other two comments, I see no reason why we don't adjust the wording. That's fine with me. Mandate, however we want to use the word or term. It's just this is what we are giving ourselves a task to do, so it doesn't matter to me. But just a clarification on that whole back and forth thing.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to that?
No, I maybe understand it a little bit better. It's just where the wording is certain, it's, council is creating this committee, so, yeah, it's a subcommittee of council. And I just, okay, lost the page I was on.
While you're looking, I'll go to Councillor Daly, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. And my comments in response to Councillor Walsh's concerns is that this committee is to be used as an information gathering tool, and that we made it very, very explicit that we would not be making decisions in this, but it would be more of a time for council to be able to review the information and be familiar with it before it comes to a council meeting. And so I think as far as being a decision-making committee, it is not. It is merely information gathering and also accommodates the transparency and heads up, so to speak, to our citizens as well before items come to a council meeting as well.
Thank you for the explanation. Did you want to go back to your question, Councillor Walsh?
No, I understand that. I just, where's the authority for this committee? Where does it get its authority from to go out and look for information? That's, I know it's a, we are giving the authority through council to do what? And I'm going to say this, is the purpose is to monitor our strategic priorities and look at that in a broad sense, to actually look at anything that affects that strategic direction. That's limiting, right? In my mind. That's the way it's limited here. We probably wouldn't entertain things that didn't affect our priorities on our strategic planning.
Sounds like this is something that we will have to discuss together all at the table in a future meeting. But your point's well taken. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just one, when we sat down as a subcommittee to discuss the COTW or the PMP, however you wanted to name it, and we came up with was this, is that the biggest consensus I think we had throughout it all is that this can't be held but in isolation. It has to be a part of a bigger process that includes the COTW, regular council meetings, special council meetings. It's going to have to trigger a review of our procedural bylaw, the processes involved in regular council meetings, as well as the reasons why we would call special council meetings and stuff like that, and look at it holistically as a process involving multiple options and procedures, I guess, within the bigger policy or procedure of governance. So it is not complete without taking into consideration the procedural bylaw, how and what we do at a regular council meeting, and how and what we would do in a special council meeting if we had to call one of those. So there are going to be gaps in the COTW that don't fit until we look completely at the other processes as well. And again, this is just one of the three avenues of governance that we have as a council, regular council meetings, this council or committee of the whole, as well as any needed special council meetings. I think we had a consensus in our group about that. So I see where you're coming from, where does and who controls and what not, where the content of a COTW committee meeting comes from, but we're not going to see that in the COTW mandate. Here, we're going to see that in the procedural bylaws at a regular council meeting, because it's going to be up to council to send the COTW work through administration and the creation of the agendas. The COTW can't make up its own work projects, right? It has to come from somewhere else. That's what committees, we can ask for more information on a subject that's been given to us by council, but we're going to have to see those changes in that direction in the procedural bylaw itself, not in the COTW bylaw.
Councillor Daly and then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And I think in a roundabout way, Councillor Cummings has explained what I was thinking as well, is that there is no authority in the committee of the whole, and that this is strictly an information gathering meeting that is transparent, and our council meetings, each individual councillor is still obligated to vote on items either for or against, and there is no authority that's coming from this committee towards council in any such way. And so I think that's kind of in the way that Councillor Cummings was describing it. And I think that this is to be used as a tool to make our council meetings a little bit more informative as well as efficient as far as allocation of time, so.
Counselor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and I just had a comment, which Councillor Daly has pretty much covered, but we're just the Committee of the Whole is just replacing what used to be our P&P meeting, Policies and Priorities meetings, whereupon we gathered information and either gave direction to council or to administration to bring something back to council. So in essence, that's what this committee is doing. It's just we're not calling it P&P anymore. We're just calling it Committee of the Whole. Do I understand that correctly? And then the gaps will be filled in when we review our procedural bylaws. Okay, thank you for that clarity, because my apologies, I missed last meeting, so I missed the majority of this discussion.
Thank you, Counselor Blatz. And Deputy Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I appreciate the discussion and the points raised. My comment would be, I don't think we want to overthink this. For me, and if I understood Councillor Walsh's comment, if replacing mandate with something like purpose satisfies his needs, I'm fine with that. But again, I don't think we want to overthink this. For me, it's very simple and straightforward. The COTW, Committee of the Whole, will be data gathered, data information, discussion, so that hopefully when we get to our 2 council meetings in a month, they're streamlined, efficient, and again, I throw my famous words, we're quick, nimble, and agile, and we can quickly react to things. I think we at times can churn and spin on things unnecessarily. So the COTW will be the vehicle to get that information through whatever means, whatever sources, with the assistance from administration, so that by the time we get to the council meeting, we can render a decision.
Thank you, Counselor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. And one other comment I'd like to make is that this bylaw that we're putting into place here, it's the first try. And so we're going to put things in action, and we may find gaps and we may find deficiencies here and there, but we can come back and review this and adjust it as needed as well. And so I'd just like to say that this isn't written in stone, but and none of us would take offense on the ad hoc committee either if we come to it 6 months from now and make some adjustments, because we are all for trying to make this as useful as possible. So.
Counselor Walsh, and then I'll put something on the floor.
Yeah, no, I appreciate Councillor Cummings' explanation. It was perfect. I don't see it setting in the process that I had envisioned, but it's nice to know that it's not all there yet. So that's the thing. And I just question number 6, where it says Policies and Priority Committee. I think that should be changed to Committee of the Whole. And yeah, I would prefer purpose over mandate, if councils are agreeable to that. But I did like Councillor Cummings' explanation. Clarified a lot of things.
Thank you. Before I move forward with those for consensus, I'll ask Counselor Blatt. She has a motion on the floor, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. That's what I was going to say. So then we would just be amending number 6 to remove policies and priorities and replace it with COTW, and then change mandate to purpose, and then we could approve this as amended. So I've done
Correct.
first reading, so I will take that friendly amendment.
That's correct. So I have consensus, I believe, around the table. And we have the motion on the floor as amended. Administration's got that? All right, that's very good. Now, we'll move down to motion, please, for second reading. Oh, yep. Okay, we have first reading. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, and I would ask for second reading, please. Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council gives second reading to the Committee of the Whole bylaw number 2024-01. Oh, sorry, as amended.
Thank you very much, Deputy Wilson. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Unanimous consent, please. Councillor Cummings.
I move that council unanimously agrees to consider a third reading of the Committee of the Whole bylaw number 2024-01.
As amended.
Sure.
Call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Third reading, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council give third reading to the Committee of the Whole bylaw 2024-01 as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we have one more motion we're looking for, please. Who would like to make that motion? Okay, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council hold regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole meetings at 1 p.m. in council chambers at 4512 46th Street in Olds, Alberta on March 4th, 2024, May 6th, 2024, July 2nd, 2024, which is a Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, another Tuesday, October 7th, 2024, and December 2nd as 2024. Or, excuse me, or as otherwise determined.
Thank you for that motion. I will now call for the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Well done. We are now on page 34 of the agenda, and it's item 4B, bylaw 2024 traffic, and we're looking for second and third reading here. I would ask for first reading, please. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council give second reading to traffic bylaw 2024-04 as amended.
Before we move forward, is there any further questions? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and again, my apologies because I missed last meeting. I see that we made a couple of additions here, number 32 to town employee. And then, so my question with that is, for the purposes of this bylaw, an agent working for the town through contract will be considered an employee. So that would be like our grader contractors or dump truck, okay, thank you for that. Again, I wasn't here, so I just wanted clarity on that item. I appreciate that.
You have all the right to ask a question. So now we have the motion on the floor from Councillor Daly. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. And for third and final reading, please, we'll go to this side. Okay. Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council give third reading to the traffic bylaw 2024-04 as amended.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Page 63, please, item 4C. This is bylaw 2024-08, amending community standards bylaw 2023-06, and again, looking for all readings. We'll start with first reading, please. Councillor Blatt.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council gives first reading to bylaw number 2024-08 as presented.
Thank you. Before moving forward to follow, any questions? Very good. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Second reading, please. Councillor Cummings.
I guess I got to turn my mic on. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 2024-08 as presented.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote.
Question.
Councillor Walsh.
Just a question. I didn't highlight reading through this, but by deleting the definition violation tag, but I did notice it was used in the body of the bylaw. So I was curious if that was just missed or. Okay.
Okay, do we have consensus for friendly amendment on that vote? Thank you. And our legislative clerk has that. Very good, thank you. So we're voting on second reading. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you for that note, Councillor Walsh. Would you like to make unanimous consent for third?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I move the council unanimously agree to consider a third reading of bylaw 2024-08 as presented, as amended.
Amended, thank you. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And third and final reading, please. Councillor Wilson, or Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council give third reading to bylaw 2024-08 as amended.
Very good. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And now to page 120 of your agenda, please. Item 4D, bylaw 2024-06. This is the Citizens Committee to review council remuneration consideration for all readings. I'd ask for first reading to start with, please. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give first reading to the Council Remuneration Review Committee bylaw 2024-06 as presented.
Thank you very much, Councillor Daly. Is there any questions before we move forward? Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And again, my apologies, but in the original iteration that came forward on January 8th, under background, it said that this remuneration review committee shall also be asked to provide input to move to a straight salary system for elected official compensation. And I see that it is not in this second one, and I'm questioning as to why it has been removed and why we wouldn't still continue with this, because this committee is supposed to be up and running by March 1st to report back to council within 90 days, and we have 30 days to respond to this. And I do understand there's been discussion on a salary type of a system for council, which I have also stated in the past I do support. But I would just think that this committee should be tasked with that job, and I'm just questioning as to why it's been removed.
Theo Williams?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Yeah, good question. It was removed due to the notice of motion that's later on in the agenda package that if council does approve, it would be the February 12th meeting directing administration to act on Councillor Wilson's notice of motion, that we would essentially be doing that research on behalf of the committee. If council does turn that down, either the bylaw could be amended or direction could be given to the committee on that specific matter. But so the decision was administrative to remove it from the draft bylaw for now.
Okay, thank you for that, and I do realize that it is a notice of motion later on in the agenda, but again, my question then would be, or my comments, and I guess it will depend on whether we decide to pass it or not, is does our administration have that capacity, being that we are going to appoint an ad hoc committee to do this job anyway? So that is a consideration I think council at this table needs to think about today.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a motion on the floor right now. Councillor Daly. For first reading, I'm calling for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Second reading, please. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council give second reading to the Council Remuneration Review Committee bylaw 2024-06 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. I would like to get unanimous consent for third and final reading. Who would like to make that motion? Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council unanimously agrees to consider third reading of the Council Remuneration Review Committee bylaw 2024-06 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Third and final reading, please. Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'll make the motion that council give third reading to the Council Remuneration Review Committee bylaw 2024-06 as presented.
Thank you. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We are now at the new business, page 125 of your agenda, item 5A. And this is sponsorship request, Olds College Dinner of Distinction. Once again, we did discuss this a little bit, if anybody would, and decided to bring this to council. So I will put the motion on the floor, and then we can ask if there's questions. Counselor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that sponsorship of $3,000 for the Olds College Dinner of Distinction being held on March 15th, 2024 be approved.
Thank you. Are there any further questions before I call for the vote? Thank you very much. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Page 126, item 5B. Tax exemption requests, and I see our Director of Finance have arrived. Will you be speaking to this? Thank you, Director Lindeman.
Thank you, Mayor. So today we have 7 tax exemptions that were received for the 2024 tax year. All of these applications were received on time and with all of the information requirements being met. It is now up to council to decide if they meet the regulation requirement that the property is being used for a charitable and benevolent purpose that is for the benefit of the general public. And just quick for information purposes, 6 of these applications have been approved in previous years. The Olds and District Hospice is a new application, and this is for the New to You building. And then under financial considerations, I just want to note that these are just estimates. Until the 2024 taxes have been levied, we won't know the actual exemptions. And I would just open up to questions from there.
Thank you, Director Lindeman. I will be asking for 7 separate motions as they all pertain to a different name. So I'll start with first recommendation. Or for the first, who would like to do the first motion? Okay, Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the application for property tax exemption submitted by Pednoma Support Services be accepted for the 2024 taxation year.
Thank you. The reason I'm doing it in 7 motions is because there may or perhaps be one that council would like to speak to. So I call for the vote for Pednoma. All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Questions, or when do we do questions?
Oh, well, we can certainly open the floor for questions. If you have a question, go ahead, Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to either Director Linderman or to the CEO. I'm just wondering, I understand the legislation, and, which was part of the agenda and reviewed that. I'm just wondering, what due diligence, what review does administration do? I'm thinking in the area of the criteria of benevolence and charitable to vet these applications, or is that simply being transferred and looked to council to determine whether there's benevolence and charity?
Correct. So administration looks at the other requirements to make sure that they've all been met, because charitable and benevolent is in the eye of the beholder, essentially. It is up to council to make that determination.
Thank you. So not necessarily a question, but a comment. And I have a couple of concerns other than, in addition to, as you said, benevolence, and the definitions of benevolence and charity are very subjective and personal. I don't certainly discount the quality of life and the impact that these organizations bring to the town and our community, for sure. What I do have concerns with are, I think year over year, we've almost doubled the exemptions, or the request for the exemptions. At the end of the day, so far, statistically, it's fairly insignificant as far as our total tax. I do have a concern, though, in terms of redistributing the tax burden from these entities to our other taxpayers in the community. Again, recognizing that it is only, $53,000 on a tax roll of some 9 or 10 million. But I do struggle with this. And as I said, we've grown, I think, from 29,000 last year to now 53. As well as trying to determine what's benevolent and what's charity as part of the criteria. And so I guess sorry for my wordiness, but my question is, do we have the option to, I guess we do have the option to decline this given the legislation, right? If we don't think benevolence and charity have been met as a criteria?
Correct. It is a council decision. And I just want to note, last year, the total was around 50,000. The one large one on here, accredited supports, was a carry forward. So it was also done, but just did not need to come to council last year at that time.
Thank you. And when you speak in the word of charity, personally, for myself, I see every one of these, all 7 of these are a type of charity, although they do get paid, with many volunteers. So the money is actually being used in an order that is beneficial, in my opinion, to the community as a whole. Is there any other questions? We have a motion on the floor. You so wish to see the definition. Our legislative clerk has brought it up. If there's no questions, I'll call for the vote. For PAD NOMA Support Services, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. A motion, please, for Central Alberta Pregnancy Care. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I move that the application for property tax exemption submitted by Central Alberta Pregnancy Care Centre be accepted for the 2024 taxation year.
Thank you. I'll open the floor once again. I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Scouts Canada. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the application for property tax exemptions submitted by Scouts Canada be accepted for the 2024 taxation year.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Questions? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Imagine Gymnastics Club. Motion, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the application for property tax exemption submitted by Imagine Gymnastics Club be accepted for the 2024 taxation year.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Questions? Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the one that jumped out at me a little bit. I think there was a discussion on this last year as well, and my concern is that by doing this today, are we encouraging the grouping of all minor sports and minor activities like this to do the same process? Minor hockey, minor lacrosse, minor baseball. We know that they're all interested in finding spaces and using spaces for activities in their off seasons. It just seems a little bit odd to me that a sports, because gymnastics is a sport, a sports club, it falls into this category. I can understand most of these other ones, and as I read through the legislation, I'm sitting there going, there's an argument for everything, one way or the other. I'm just not very supportive of sports activities falling into this charity type activity program. And again, I'm concerned that we're going to see quite a number of the boxing club, are they going to ask for a charitable donation? Are they going to try to get non-for-profit status so that they can get exempt in this status as well? How many other sporting activities or sports facilities, digger sports, how many of them are going to see this as an avenue of reducing expenses? So I'm just a little bit concerned about sports clubs and sports activities falling into this category. So I won't be voting for this, in favor of this one.
Thank you for your comment. C.O. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and to Councillor Cummings' comments. This did come up last year. I believe the information that was provided was Imagine Gymnastics, aka the Old Gymnastics Club, is a registered nonprofit society. No other club currently exists in the same format, so that's why it is kind of an outlier. But given that the nonprofit status, and given that the town does subsidize minor sports to a significant amount in every single facet elsewhere, just generally through facilities we own, that's why administration believes it was still worthwhile to bring forward. Now, sure, if minor sports wants to open or minor hockey wants to open a satellite office, correct, we'd be in that role as well. But the incorporation into a nonprofit entity, which is itself a provincially regulated process, would have to occur before we would entertain that. But for now, Imagine is that, I guess, odd man out, but administration's opinion. It did fit the bill as a community benefit to be here.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Blatz. No further comments. I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next, Boys and Girls Club. A motion, please. Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dodd. I'll make the motion that the application for property tax exemption submitted by Boys and Girls Club be accepted for the 2024 tax.
Didn't cut you off, did I? No. Okay, very good. Okay, I'll open the floor for questions. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And accredited supports to the community. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the two applications for property tax exemptions submitted by accredited supports to the community be accepted for the 2024 taxation year.
Open the floor. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And Olds and District Hospice Society, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the application for property tax exemption submitted by the Olsen District Hospice Society be accepted for the 2024 taxation year.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Questions? I will call for the vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you all for your patience. We will now move forward to, sorry, Councillor Wilson.
I just have a question, if I may, of a general sense relative to the process, if I'm allowed.
Into the previous item?
Yes, to
Go.
tax exemption.
Oh, briefly, yes.
Thank you. Just a question again through you to either the finance director or the CEO. Were there any applicants that were submitted that didn't pass administration screening, or what was received ended up being part of the RFD?
Yes, there were two applications, additional ones through accredited supports that we did not bring forward, that did not meet the requirements.
Thank you for that, and thank you for being here. By the way, that's Director Corporate Services, Sheena Linderman. Moving down to item 5C, please, 145 in your agenda. And we are going to have, I believe, Kyle Sloan, our municipal land use planner, to join us. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This development permit application is for a variance to an accessory residential building, a garden shed, at 82 Briegel Road. A permit was issued for this shed in 2023 that stated it had to be 1 meter from the side and rear property lines. It was placed closer than that to both property lines, and the owner has applied for a variance to relax that regulation. This is similar to one that was presented to council earlier this month, and I did want to note that this type of regulation for garden sheds, specifically those without a foundation that are a shed on skids, is something that administration is considering an amendment for to not require the 1 meter setback. But for now, we do still have that requirement, and the applicant has applied for that. The recommendation is that council approve development permit application 24-007 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. I will ask council if you have questions. And thank you, Councillor Blatz. I believe that was the last agenda that you were on vacation for the other permit. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Mr. Sloan. So this particular application, then, it is not on a permanent cement pad or anything. It is just on skids. That was one of my, you did mention that, but I just wanted to ensure that was clarity. So in essence, at any point in time, it could be moved if it had to be. Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor. And I would just like to, my question was initially in regards to exactly what you just commented. This is our second one in our second council meeting, and I'm just wondering, if we have this bylaw, why are we always amending it to accommodate people that are residents that are putting these garden sheds too close to the property lines? And so going forward, I'm glad to hear that we're going to review that policy and we're going to come up with something that meets everybody's wants and needs. So thank you for that.
CEO Williams and then Councillor Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor Dahl. Actually, my comment was similar to Councillor Daly's and to Planner Sloan's. The council has a request standing on the CAO's action item list around direct control districts. And I have said at various times throughout the 2023 that we are compiling a list of what we would consider intangible development issues that we would like to bring forward prior to the full-scale LUB review. And just to remind council, I know the side yard shed variances on skids is just one example, but people not only pay money for these applications, they also have to wait before they have something so intangible as a approval for what could be a foot or two. So that's, I think it's something we like council to continue to support. I really hate to use the term, but reducing red tape, so to speak, but that's all I want to say.
Red tape reduction, pretty common in municipal government. Any further questions? I'm sorry, Councillor Walsh, you were next.
Yeah, just, I remember well why this is even in our land use bylaw. And it's mainly because of surface runoff. People would put their sheds on skids next to the fence and the runoff would enter the neighbor's yard. If you can solve that problem, then you probably wouldn't have to have a permit to do this. But that was the big problem, and that's why it's in our land use bylaw.
Any further questions for Mr. Sloan? I would ask for a motion, please. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council approve development permit application DB 24-007 as presented, subject to the condition listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Will you be doing the next item as well? Thank you. Go ahead. This is, for viewers, this is page 153, 5D.
Thank you again. This second development permit application is for an existing structure. It is specifically for a loft that was constructed above a detached garage. The construction took place looking at aerial photos between 2009 and 2013. This application has to come to council for two reasons. One is that the accessory use of the structure being a loft is a discretionary use and has to come to council. And also because administration, the development officer does not have the authority to approve the height variance requested for this building. The height of the accessory building now is, let me just double check, it's 20 feet. And the regulation is that accessory buildings exceeding 14.76 feet require a variance. The 15% variance power of the development officer is a little bit under 18 feet. Our building inspector has done site visits at this property, and until they open it up further as part of a building permit process, he can't really do any further inspections. So the recommendation is that council approve development permit application 23-190 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft permit.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. I would call for motion at this time. Oh, question, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Question, Councillor Daly.
So just, thank you, Mayor. Through you to our municipal development officer, Kyle. this building has already been constructed. And you said back in between 2009 and 2013, so that's telling me that they constructed this building without a permit to begin with?
Yes, thank you. So the property was recently sold, and the new owners were, they learned that there were some renovations that took place without permits. So they reached out to us to inquire about that, and through them reaching out, we realized there was no permit for this addition to the garage. So then they've applied now so that they can have the inspection and be assured that it was constructed properly.
Go ahead, Councillor Daly.
So supplemental, I have mixed feelings about this application in regards to being built without a permit. The next thing I'm going to ask is, what is going to be the future purpose of this loft? Is it for storage, or is it going to be a suite, or what's their ideas?
Thank you. As of right now, it is not planned to be a suite. Previously, I believe there was a home office set up there, but there is plumbing, so there is a washroom there. But we have not received an application for a secondary suite.
E.O. Williams, and then Councillor Daly and Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And it's a tricky one and evokes emotion easily. To, I guess, take the homeowner's side, they bought this property out of compliance or taking the proper steps to bring it into compliance. Use is not the best question to ask yet. It really is a matter of safety codes before you talk about occupation and what it could be used for, and that's what this initial purpose is for, to allow then our building code side to go in and inspect what has been done. And then if we receive an application for use, depending whose jurisdiction it falls under, that's when that full, I guess, equation will be better understood. But I don't envy this space this new purchaser is in right now, trying to rectify a decades older mistake. So we do appreciate the effort, though, for sure.
Is this the lot that they moved the house and rebuilt on?
That I'm not sure about. The current house was not built in my time here within the last 3 years. I believe it's been there for a while. The house actually just in the photo on the screen, I believe the one just to the east, southeast, was demolished and rebuilt last year.
That's the same lot I'm talking about. Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Daly? Either way, gentlemen, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. My concern here is like the CAO brought up, that this is the unfortunate person who inherited a problem and is trying to fix the problem. My question is what's the consequence to this homeowner if we choose not to approve this development permit? What are his next steps if we say, nope, sorry, we're not going to give you the variances here? So what do they have to do next, if that's the case?
Thank you. The next step then is that it would be considered a non-compliant property, and administration would have to consider enforcement steps of some sort, whether it's considering it a non-conforming use that is noted on the property, or whether steps are needed to bring the structure into compliance.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I see two, but maybe three options here. So you mentioned enforcement of that, which means tear down the building, which nobody really wants to see. Two, administration can then, regardless of what our decision is here, accept that it's a non-compliant building and just move on with life. The third one, I think, is it possible for the landowner to then appeal our decision to the appeal board And in your experience, if this type of case goes to the appeal board in this situation, which I'm sure happens quite a bit, what's the likelihood of it passing or failing the appeal process?
Thank you for bringing up the appeal board. I should have mentioned that. Yes, that is certainly a step they would take before demolishing. It would be to appeal a refusal. I haven't seen a situation myself where an application for an existing structure was refused and then appealed, so I'm not sure how that would play out.
We have Councillor Daly and Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, a question for developer Sloan. So in what step of this process is the neighbors canvassed as far as with their opinion on this non-compliant building?
Thank you. If the permit for discretionary use and for a variance, actually in both cases, is approved, then circulation is sent out to neighbors for appeal, or to notify them of the approval, and there's a 21-day appeal period from the day of decision to when they could file an appeal to SDAV as well.
Thank you, Mayor. And so supplemental would be, would that appeal come back to council then for decision, or would that stay in the Office of Municipal Development?
Thank you. We are part of a regional subdivision and development appeal board, so the appeal would be heard by them.
Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. I just have a couple of comments here. I think that we have to bear in mind that these people have come forward in good faith to bring forward to something that they didn't do. And obviously, if this has been since by 2009, between 2013, the neighbors obviously are not concerned with this structure, or that we would have heard something, I would think, sooner than later about this. So I think today, what we are tasked with is if we are going to approve this variance for these folks, because we're also trying to encourage other people to come forward with non-complying secondary suites and other things. So I think, you know, we need to bear that in mind today, that these people have come forward with good faith, and we need to consider that as an approving body.
And just to add on to that, I have to concur with Councillor Blatz that the area is a very, very old area. There was a lot of things, and we've ran into problems like this even on 2A going north, and people buy the properties in good faith. So there you go again. There's quite a process for that, and council will have to make a decision from there. So I believe Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just a brief question for developer Sloan. Like, this is a fairly large piece of property, what I, in my world, call somewhat isolated. And I understand you've articulated the process going forward as far as soliciting from neighboring residents, but are you aware of any implications around visibility, restrictions, impediments as a result of this building and its height right now? The CAO referenced, you know, the inspection and other safety code compliance concerns. But is there anything from an aesthetic or a visibility, traffic movement in anything that you're aware of?
No, administration doesn't have any concerns in that regard. The variance to height is because there are two maximums for accessory buildings. There's one that's the 14.76 feet, and another is that an accessory building be lower than the principal dwelling, which in this case this one is, but it's the maximum height is the lower of those two, so it still requires this.
You barely see it. I ride my bike in there all the time. You barely notice it's in there, but the trees are higher than anybody being able to really see it. But thank you for that question. Are there any further questions? Then I'd ask for a motion, please. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, I move that council approve the development permit application DP 23-190 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried, and thank you for your time, Mr. Sloan. All right, we have an added item now. This is an added item that, catch that, administration? All right, you can send it forward to our CAO then if you would like to note it again. Thank you. Was that in the motion? No. That's good. Thank you. Added item 5E is, I'm sorry it had to be an added item for this morning, but it was a very late meeting on that Friday, and the mayors that were putting this together, typing-wise, were working very hard to get it on time. So you got it this morning to read, and the motion is, and I will ask if you have any questions as well, that the Town of Olds Council approve membership in the Alberta Mid-Sized Towns Mayor's Caucus as per the terms of reference attached, and agree to pay the $250 yearly annual membership. I gave you the information that I possibly could in the past. It's in my report that I was going to bring this terms of reference to all council. This doesn't mean that areas of this terms of reference cannot be changed at any time as well. There will be a follow-up process for this, and it will be shared with you through myself. Are there any questions in regards to this? I would ask for a motion from my council, please. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Town of Olds Council approve membership in the Alberta Mid-Sized Towns Mayor's Caucus as per the terms of reference attached, and agree to pay the $250 yearly annual membership fee.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and there will be forthcoming information back to you. I'll keep in touch with you directly. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now we're moving to item 6A, the Chief Administrator Office Report, C.O. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And outside of the action items list, which hasn't changed too much, the only other thing was very emergent from Councillor Wilson's question about the aquatic center's shutdown yesterday. I got some preliminary information. We're still not 100% sure. There was a power blip that we believe crashed our management system software that controls the mechanical side, and coincidentally or correspondingly, one of the primary pumps did burn out, and we were able to repair that yesterday afternoon, which required the startup, but that pump will be changed out this week. But operations aren't expected to be affected anymore. So power bump, software crash, coincidence or not, a pump did malfunction as well. So.
Okay, we have in front of us on the agenda the CEO report. Did you want to speak to anything further? Did council find anything they'd like to ask our CAO? A motion, please, then, with regards to his report. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Chief Administrative Officer report be accepted for information.
Thank you. I call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, CEO Williams. Now we are at page 164, item 7A. This is the correspondence and information report. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to get on the floor, please, and then we can go around the table. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Wilson. You're always hiding on the
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the correspondence and information report ending January 22nd, 2024 be received for information.
Very good. Okay, we've got a report in from myself as mayor. We've got a report in from Councillor Daly. So we will then go around the table for reports. This is including the past report from previous council. Yes?
We need to vote still on the motion that was just put on the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I ahead of myself? That's my apology. Whew, I'm getting hot. It's getting warm in this room.
But before we go to the
Okay.
vote, Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, you certainly can, and thank you, Councillor Cummings.
Thank you. Just a question for administration. With the letter of support from Cremona, how many of the communities have expressed their support now? Because I know we received one last meeting as well.
Right now, we're just missing the letter that was sent to Bowden. We have no word, but so far, Cremona and Sundre and Mountain View County have all supported. Didsbury and Carstairs have declined.
Yes, and as our CEO did report to you just now, I have sent all the letters back a second time, and that's all that have reported to date. But thank you for the question. All right, I do need a motion for information. Sorry, who moved that? Okay, I was ahead of myself there, and my apologies. Okay, we have a motion from Councillor Wilson for the correspondence and information. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. All right, page 168 now, reports from council, boards, commissions. I would also ask this time for a motion. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the reports from council, authorities, boards, committees, and commissions ending January 22nd, 2024 be received for information.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blatz. I'll go ahead and open the floor at this time and do a round table. And Councillor Daly has given his. We can start with Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I also have a report that's included in the agenda, so I won't take up valuable time, other than to say I did attend the open house of the Boys and Girls Club of Olds, the Zone, and very impressed with the facility and the group, the Boys and Girls Club, doing a great job, and that's going to hopefully fill a much-needed, or a void in our community serving the youth. So, but yes, my report's part of the agenda package, so thank you.
Yes, thank you, as well as Councillor Ryans is here as well. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I attended all council and CEO council meetings the past year. I guess it is a new year. I participated in the first EDAC committee meeting, which was pretty well a high-level orientation meeting, so keen to get that underway. Also attended a Parkland Advocacy Committee meeting that is a partnership between Parkland Regional Library System and Yellowhead, and they put together a committee that advocates on behalf of the library systems to the province. I was persuaded to be vice chair, so I'm not sure how that will work out. We had a library meeting January 17th, pretty short. It was an orientation meeting. We're still could use one more library member. Also, the Banff Film Festival is going quite well. Ticket sales, it's surpassed last year's and the previous year's sales. So if you're interested, it is happening this Friday. I'll be there. And also was interviewed by the community policing lady's name was Dana last week. So those are the 4 things that I've done in the past, outside of council, I guess.
Thank you very much. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and my apologies for not submitting a report, as most of the things that I did were after the deadline. As I was away on vacation, I participated in the Alberta Munis webinar for LGFF formula, and also I was interviewed for the community policing, for the community policing program. So that was pretty much all that I attended. Councillor Wilson attended anything on my behalf as my alternate, so.
Thank you. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just have 2 things to bring to the council's attention. One, the Chamber of Commerce, so the Olsen District Chamber of Commerce is hosting a mix and mingle event on February the 6th at 5:30 to 7:30 at the Just Jack's Lounge, the Pomeroy Hotel. A great way for our business community to get to know each other as well. I did attend the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group annual general meeting and regular meeting last week. We had a gentleman come in from the province's Drought Command Center. I'm sure everyone has seen in the news lately the fear of the drought that's going to be happening in Alberta this year, which is currently happening and is going to continue to happen throughout next year. It's a big concern, of course, to anybody that uses water from the Red Deer River, any source of water in town. We are at a drought level 4, which is the second highest drought level that we can have. The next level is a state of emergency declared by the province. Not there yet, but we're getting pretty darn close. The last drought of this magnitude was in 2001, so if you're a resident of Alberta in 2001 and remember that drought, this one is going to be as bad or worse. Right now, the water reservoir on the Red Deer River, which the town of Olds receives its water from, is at 100%. It's the only reservoir water storage facility in the entire province that is full. The rest are averaging 21% full, which is, as you can imagine, disastrous. And there's no serious or significant snowpack to melt to fill up those reservoirs. So at stage 4, what happens is the province initiates a great number of inter-basin agreements. That means that full basins like the Red Deer River Basin, which is full, are now obliged through these agreements to supply water to other basins. So we'll see some water diversion from our river basin, mostly to the Bow and Old Man River water basins, mostly in the east towards Lethbridge and areas like that, which should not seriously affect us at this end, but of course anything that happens at the high end of the water basin will affect everybody downstream. So we did talk last meeting, I think, about the letter that was sent up by Minister Schultz. That was brought up again at the RDR MUG meeting. This gentleman that was speaking to us, his direct supervisor is Minister Schultz. So he's very pulse reading and stuff like that. So the Red Deer River Municipal Group is keeping a close tab on our reservoir and any diversion into the other water basins that can seriously affect us. For any of our community members who are listening that rely on water diversions, that's taking water from one source and using it somewhere else, which happens regularly, especially in Mountain View County and such, those are almost exclusively to be canceled at this moment in time. So that's a concern. And if anybody does have a concern, there's a 1-800 number for the Drought Command Center. It's 1-800-222-6514. If you have any concerns about that, they've asked us to give the widest possible distribution of that information to everyone. So a big concern moving forward.
Yes, it certainly is, and I'm sure all municipalities in Alberta will be watching very closely. Is there anything else anybody would like to speak to? We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Blatz. Very good. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone, for your comments. And 174, page 174 today, item 8B, will be notice of motion from Councillor Wilson. This is an introduction only, and it's coming back to February 12th, 2024 regular council meeting as an item, but I will move this over to CAO Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And just to comment on how I have dealt with notice of motions in the past, and hasn't happened in my time here, but this is generally the process that a councillor lets myself or the legislative clerk, and therefore the mayor, know that they would like a motion placed on the agenda in this format, and we do have a form in our procedural bylaw for that. This is not debatable at the current time. It's just for reference sake that at the next regular council meeting there will be an RFD based on the councillor's motion, and council at that time decides whether or not it would like administration to proceed with spending time and resources on it essentially. So that's just the parameters, no action required right now.
Thank you. So what we'd be looking for today would be to accept the notice of motion by Councillor Wilson to be brought back to the regular council meeting of February 12th, 2024. Who would like to make that motion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I make the motion that the notice of motion be brought back to council at February 12th, 2024 for further consideration via the RFD.
Thank you very much, Deputy Wilson. Are there any further comments before I call the vote? I don't have to vote, we don't have to accept, okay, that's fair. Just a notice, it is a notice of motion, my error, thank you. And there's nothing further, we certainly accept everyone's time and our staff time for staying to the end of our meeting and our viewers. So I would call the meeting for January 22nd, 2024 adjourned at 2:51 p.m.